Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 17th of May, 2020. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Fuzz.
And Robert Kemp.
Oh, quick, the fuzz are coming.
Who doesn't love fuzz? It's like a nice thing to run your fingers through.
I don't know if fuzz is. Like, fuzz can feel quite weird when you run your hand over it. And it's like fuzz, not like hair.
Yeah, fair.
Is that like, I don't know, it depends. Like, if you're talking like top of head fuzz, that's the sort of word I'd associate with, like, I don't know, it's been cut quite short and it's not quite hair yet, but it's a bit longer than stubble. So it's not quite soft enough, but not.
Yeah, fuzz is not a good adjective for like a beard, is it? You don't want.
No.
I
don't know. Yeah, I don't think I think I'm past fuzz phase.
It's pretty good for a guitar tone, though.
Yes.
Love me some
you
fuzz.
want a proper fuzz.
Yeah. The fuzz face.
Fuzz face.
Yeah.
Fuzz right in your face.
The classic fuzz.
Cover all of the EQ spectrum, so it's really irritating to do anything else.
Just hard clip that mofo.
Flip it on down. Cut out the mids so there's some room for the vocals. That's how it's done. There you go. That's my EQ masterclass for the week.
Is that how it's done?
I mean, the trick to a good EQ is more about subtraction than addition. I don't know why that required the Lloyd Grossman voice, but
how do you? I see. Boosting the signal in certain ranges, but then it's going to clip.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Or you muddy it, or things like that. It's like, so sometimes it's way more effective to try and subtract from other elements.
You've got to boost the mids if you want to cut through, though. You want to be heard. If you're playing a gig.
But it's about timing.
It's true.
That's probably why gigs, I don't know. I've always had a slight problem with live sound design, but I sort of understand why, because it's hard to do live.
I mean, it's really hard, right?
Production. Yeah, but
because you lose the top end and and the bass gets all muddy, so you end up in the middle, all competing with each other.
Yeah, exactly, and it just ends up being a fuzzy mess.
Sometimes they seem to get it right, though. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, don't overamp it and play it in tiny, tiny pubs. I think that's the clue.
I guess. But once you get the whole big gig situation with the PA, you have a lot more control over it, I guess.
Yeah. But, because the problem with, like, small pub gigs or whatever is that the drum kit is always going to be there and it's always going to be loud.
Yeah.
And so you've got to work hard to counteract that with everything else.
Bouncing crazily off the weird angled black painted walls.
In the tiniest corner that they decided to put you in for some reason. It's a dark art. What annoys me most, actually, is I don't mind that too much. I mean, yeah, it's easy to get wrong. It's way harder to get right. But it's when TV gets it wrong. That really bothers me. Where it's just like, oh, why have they mic'd the vocalist so loud or often so quiet? It's all drum up in here.
I mean, they do a good job on shows where they've been doing it for years, like Later.
Yes, Jules Holland is one of the better examples, for sure. But often those are done with, like, their own, sometimes, like, their own sound guys for the band. And it doesn't always work. Even on Later, it can sometimes go awry. I mean, Later has the advantage that a lot of the music is jazz based, and they've got that down. It's not too heavy.
Yeah, I guess probably records a bit better.
Yeah.
I don't really understand how you're supposed to do. I mean, I don't listen to it, but like classical stuff has such crazy dynamic range. I don't understand how it's supposed to work on Radio 3 or whatever.
Especially, they actually keep a great deal of the range. They don't. you listen to the radio, right? It's hugely compressed, right?
Yeah, normally, yeah.
And done in a very specific way to give that radio feel. So even when they moved to digital, they kept all that compression chain.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is kind of annoying. I kind of always hoped that the move to DAB and things like that would mean they would just
broadcast like the CD kind of range.
Yeah, relax it a little bit, because they probably could. But it's still quite... Well, DAB is kind of a weird place anyway, right? Because a lot of radio stations on DAB can't broadcast in stereo because they don't have the bandwidth.
It's all messed up.
Which is weird.
Just go fully IP based, right? Online radio, surely. What you need surely they should make. I don't know. I don't understand what happened with radios. Yeah, surely they can make radios now that like are just Internet of Things devices that can just stream from.
I mean, that's what Alexa is, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You just tell it to play some radio, and it goes and asks tune in to go and stream it to you.
Yeah.
And then, I suppose the problem is in a car, right? You have to use your mobile data rate to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, it won't be long before that doesn't matter anymore, right? I don't know. Maybe not, but
and there has to be some level of like, well, we've still got normal radio, I suppose. There has to be some coverage of something, right, for emergency broadcasts and all that jazz.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. But presumably when 5G is everywhere, which will take years, but then we could be streaming. Freaking...
we'll be dead from coronavirus from 5G masts before then.
Yeah, that's true.
Or they'll all have been set on fire.
I know it's a done to death thing, but what thought process started that?
I don't know. How does that even happen?
It's like an even more dumb version of chemtrails, because at least chemtrails, it's like you can see the cloud things that are coming out of the engines. It's like, that makes some amount of sense.
Well, presumably, I mean, I don't know, but presumably it's like coronavirus came from China. And China are helping to build the 5G network, and the Americans.
It's all Huawei, right?
Supposedly, and there's a whole conspiracy about that, and they're all it's all the surveillance thing. So obviously, it all adds up, doesn't it? I mean, it's all connected.
What, no. Just no. It's not like I'm going to catch malware, right?
Yeah.
It's the same.
Do you remember when mobile phones were new, people were genuinely worried about just putting a big antenna up to your head, whether it would hurt you, and all the
it's a whole extra burst of electromagnetism, around you. There is logic to that.
They're totally especially when you were holding up these big Nokias up against your head or whatever, and they probably weren't as efficient as like modern radio antennas or whatever they.
Yeah.
And it was like, is this a problem? And everything at the time was like, we don't know because it hasn't been long enough.
And the problem is I reckon the technology moved on to different bands, different frequencies, different Gs before we really got any hard evidence about any of that stuff. So it's like, we've been exposing ourselves to a differing band all our lives rather than the same band. And I don't know how true that is, but I think there's an element to that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just not high enough power to even go through the start of your skin, is it? But anyway.
I mean, they did at least eventually decide to confirm that probably using a mobile phone at a petrol station won't make it explode.
No, yeah.
I think they got there, but it's still not enough for them to take the signs down, and have people shout at you across the forecourt.
They finally
arguably you just don't want to be distracted by something while you're pumping petrol anyway, really.
That's probably wise.
Yeah, make up some excuse. They're finally getting rid of the whole turn your phone off on a plane thing, haven't they? Even though airplane mode exists, aeroplane mode or whatever.
But they can't rely on people turning shit on.
No, I mean, obviously not.
Reliable.
They still generally ask you for that on takeoff and landing, right? Because it's the most dangerous part of the flight.
But they've started not doing that. I think it's quite recent. But I don't think that's all airlines. But yeah, obviously people don't do that. So if it was an actual problem.
Yeah, I know. It's the same thing as this current pandemic, right? Is the number of times I haven't flown a huge amount, right? But I've flown, and it's and the percentage of those times where I have been sat in the vicinity of someone who is not following the very, very clear guidelines to be like, hey guys, turn your phone off during takeoff and landing. Like, this is the airline's policy. Please do it.
Yeah.
And like, I've actually heard an elderly, well, not really elderly, but a bit older than us couple, sat next to me, basically going, "Oh, they won't notice. It'll be fine." And I'm just sat there going, "You're kidding me, right?" It's like I'm noticing.
Yeah.
Well, that just gives you the opportunity to yell at them before you all die.
Well, yeah, and just get like evils for the entire rest of the flight. It's like, yeah, that's a delicate balance.
That's what I said before you die, though. You don't actually say anything unless you're about to crash, and then you're like, "You idiots!
This was your fault."
I blame you entirely. It's almost worth crashing just so I can tell you off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the principle.
It is fun giving evils to people who come more than 2 meters towards you.
Mm.
What the fuck are you doing?
Although now apparently isn't London just it's normal? I don't know, just massive people.
No, wouldn't say so. No, they're not. Oh, I don't know. Well, because I haven't been down there, obviously.
Well, there's all those photos of people on Wednesday going back to work and it being a mess.
Yeah, well, it's because like there's no trains, so when the one does come, like it crushes the people.
Everyone still bundles on like idiots.
There was a hilarious.
People are idiots. I'm just going to put it out there.
There was this diagram in the Guardian.
Is probably nice. People are idiots.
Yeah, classic Men in Black. There was.
Oh, is that what that's from?
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, it's from the original Men in Black film. It's like a person. Will Smith is
I think it's just from Men in Black, though, right? That is actually
obviously,
a quote
but
from something else.
Yeah, probably they borrowed it. But Will Smith is like, people are smart. They can handle the fact there's aliens. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, yeah, no, a person is smart, but people are stupid, dumb, mindless animals.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there was this, I don't know, someone must have had fun writing this article because it had animations and everything, but they were like, right, well, this is how many people usually use the tube and get on the train. So the train comes every 2 minutes on the Northern Line or whatever it is, and this many people get on the train, and this is how it looks in the rush hour. And so if we actually enforce the social distancing, this is the amount of people that can get on the train. So if the trains came at the same frequency, this is how long the queue would be. And they worked out that the queue they used Clapham North as the example, and they worked out that the queue would stretch back 2 stations to Clapham South.
Nice.
To Clapham South, past Clapham Common to Clapham South. Yeah, so it's
everyone should walk to Clapham South. That's the lesson we take away from it.
Yeah, but then that'll have its own queue. 2 stops down the line to Balham or wherever the fuck it is, yeah. Or back to North, yeah, depending on which way you queue. It's like, it's just stupid. It's not going to work. But it was funny.
They should have it so, well, surely like when people see the queue coming out the door, there'll be a lot of people that just go, nah, sod this, I'm going home.
Yeah, presumably.
And that's the right approach to take.
That is the right approach.
I think the whole problem at the moment is like no one's actually sorted out like rotas or whatever like people are like the businesses are meant to be having. They're just like, now we can come back to work, and then everyone's like, well, I guess I'll go back to work then.
This is the other people problem that even my mum picked up on, right? That like there's so many people who just turned up at their place of work that morning.
Yeah.
Like, right, so what are we doing? And it's like, you mean you didn't call ahead to find out what was happening, or your company didn't tell you? It's like, I don't know.
I don't know. No one I know has gone back to work. It's gone back to their place of work.
No. Fortunately, that's the same here. Although I have noticed a significant uptick in traffic this week.
Oh, you have?
Just in general, a number of cars about when I've been out for a run has been dramatically higher.
I have noticed that the construction industry is allowed to go back to work outside my bloody window.
Oh, there's some places around here that just didn't stop though. Like the big empty industrial park near where they're building the giant white cube.
Yeah,
that didn't stop. That carried on. And also there's a house on my route that is clearly being worked on by people in vans, and they didn't stop. But that's
maybe that's a family business or something. Maybe all those people.
Yeah, maybe. And I think there were some even before this all went bad. There were some people we know directly that were still doing things here and there. You know, the odd jobsman. And they said, yeah, no, we're technically legally okay as long as we keep distancing.
I'm very much hoping that like the charity shop doesn't reopen anytime soon, because that's just got to be like a giant virus pool. It's like all this random shit covered in virus collected into one place.
But it's been sat there for 2 months, right? It would have all.
Well, the stuff in
now.
the shop, yes, but more donations.
Oh yeah, donations would suck. You'd have to put them you'd have to have a special donation cooling off zone.
It's like I just want to go into do it like I would in Oxford Not Included, and just have a room of chlorine where you put everything in so all the germs die off.
See, you've got the solutions we need for this crisis, I think.
If only it was so easy. If only real human beings could just casually walk through a room with a pure chlorine atmosphere.
I have to go swimming more, acclimatise. How that works, right?
Definitely.
Absorb it through the skin. She breathes through her skin. There you go.
Who was that
That's
quiet?
a video game reference.
Great.
Segue in there.
Yeah, perfect. Great reference.
Zach beat me to it, Inverters.
What was the weird virus in that? It was like it colonized your vocal cords or some bullshit. What was the... Do you remember that?
Yeah, I forget what it was called though.
And it was depended on the language you spoke or something.
Wolgapia or something? Baclia?
Maybe it was, I think it was bacterial actually, wasn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it was just like a smart bacteria.
Yeah.
Could listen to words and certain words would set it off.
It was so weird.
Certain languages would set it off. Wolbachia. It was Wolbachia.
Wolbachia, yeah. I mean, I don't really remember. All I remember is the hamburgers of Kazurai Miller. Do you remember that?
I mean, no, but
there were these tapes.
There's a lot of that game I don't remember now.
I think you had to get quite far, but the code talker guy, who's the guy who knows about the bacteria. Yeah. There's a bunch of tapes where he's just talking to Miller about hamburgers and making the ultimate hamburger.
Oh, I didn't listen to all the tapes. No.
Yeah, that was some of the best stuff.
It was one of those things because I was trying to play a few of them while I was playing the game, but the problem is with that is you don't really pay attention to the tapes or the game.
No, it's true.
I always play my tapes. Can't get my tapes. He's got.
I might see someone's probably put the hamburgers of Kazurai Miller on YouTube just as a sequence.
Oh, must be. Yeah. Probably called that.
Video games.
Metal Gear Solid 5 is an old game now.
It is now. Still a good one. Although, depending on... I mean, it's a good game. In some ways, it's amazing. In some ways, it's broken. And the story is stupid but and not finished. But I still think it's awesome.
Yes.
I am a fan of that game. And I think Zach should play it.
Yeah, that's the silence we were looking for.
Yeah, although he doesn't play third-person games at all. Is that right?
I mean, Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Does that count, though?
I mean, it's a third-person action-adventure shooter.
I guess. Although I think maybe shooters is slightly different. I mean, I suppose Metal Gear is technically a shooter.
Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, it can be, I guess.
A lot of games are third person. I mean, that's quite a big category to miss out, I suppose. There seems to be more third person than first person these days, that's for sure.
Gears of War.
Yeah. Is it Gears what done it? Turned first person to third person.
Tomb Raider.
Yeah, well, that was always. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That might have done it earlier.
No, I'm saying because Gears is like a shooter, whereas Tomb Raider isn't. Right.
Well, I suppose it's got shooting elements, but I suppose you don't aim.
Yeah.
It was all lock-on back in the day.
Yeah. There's news this week, isn't there?
There is quite a bit of news.
News!
By recent standards.
Yeah, there's stuff's happening. So, what's going on?
What's going on in the world of news? Well, okay, I guess the first thing that... Let's go chronological. The first thing that sort of happened was the Xbox... I said blocks, didn't I? Xbox Xbox quote unquote gameplay reveal.
Right.
Yep.
Which was what? Damp squib.
I mean, it's a weird thing to do right now. I mean, I don't know why they felt like they needed to put that out. Honestly, we all knew that they were going to do something in place of E3 in July. So, and PlayStation haven't really been showing their hand. So it's not, they weren't pressured to start putting out, I don't know, game announcements about Xbox Series X at this point. But they did anyway. And it wasn't a first party gig, it was all third party.
Well, that's probably why. I bet the third parties want to start getting pre-orders for shit, even if Microsoft would rather have all of their stuff revealed at once in one big console-related
really how this
thing.
Usually works, though, is it? They don't normally leave all of. Oh, I suppose we haven't had the console reveals were kind of Marchish, I suppose, last gen. So I guess we're a bit late, but I don't think they would have minded waiting for like E3 time. But maybe they are pressured. Who knows? So it was a third-party thing where the word gameplay has to be questioned because a great deal of it wasn't. And it's just like they dropped the ball a little bit, and it's kind of a bad way to actually just reveal, hey, this is what our console is capable of as well. It's like you want to come out there with something that's just like, no, this is like a tech demo almost. You kind of want to do that and just be like, boom, here you go, Series X. This is what we do, and then have the games follow. But this kind of ends up meaning that you get what is effectively a one-man studio, like leading your visual fidelity reveal in the form of Bright Memory Infinite. Which, in fairness, if the whole thing about him being a one-man studio is legit, that's an impressive-looking thing.
Yeah.
And actually, looked like gameplay, so that I'll give that opener some credit. But it's it's something that it's not exactly a new product. Is the other part of that because it's been on Steam a while in the form of just Bright Memory. So it's all the selling point here is like, yeah, but on Series X I'm specifically targeting 4K 60, and it will do that, and it's it looked pretty nice. I think that game is like a run-based, sort of like randomly generated thing, a bit like a roguelike shooter, I suppose, with random scenarios thrown at you, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Because I had seen it pop up on Steam ages ago. I don't know. That's just a weird way of opening, right? We haven't really, other than I don't know. We don't even know if that that first Halo Infinite reveal was technically running on Series X. We don't know that. And that opening, what looks like the opening cutscene to Halo Infinite, we know that was running on Series X target hardware. I don't know if we've had the big wow moment from Xbox.
Agreed. I mean, so what have they said? They said that this July event is going to have Halo Infinite, right?
Yes, they're going to have the first party reveals in the July event. And there's going to be another one before then. They're going to have another little thing in June. So, I don't know. It's just a bit weird. It's just a bit weird. Kind of, the info will get out there, but it's just weirdly deflating. I don't know. I don't know if it's the best play.
Sure. So that was Xbox's marketing attempt.
Yeah, there was. Let's not say this was a complete waste of time though. There was some stuff of note here. As I say, Bright Memory does look good, if nothing else. We got to see Dirt 5 revealed.
Oh yeah.
And so that hella looks like a Dirt game, but they were touting that it's running it will run at 4K 60 on the Series X, but also they're touting this might be one of the first games we kind of know of that will have a proper 120 frames per second mode. Clearly not running at 4K. They've said that will drop res, but hey, 120 frames per second games on console. We're entering that space finally. And you could argue that that's already happened thanks to VR, because some PlayStation VR stuff I think gets up to 100-ish,
right?
Something like that.
Do the new consoles have any kind of FreeSync, like?
Yes,
whatever?
The current consoles have some FreeSync.
Oh,
if you have a Series X, not
okay,
Series X, sorry, an Xbox One X, that has FreeSync support in it. Or whatever. Yeah, I guess it's FreeSync. Some sort of variable refresh rate tech in there. Not sure about the PlayStation. I'm not sure the Pro does have anything like that. But yes, these new consoles will definitely have something like that, which is really nice. So we had that. What else was of interest? A sort of weird-looking space shooter called Chorus.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious.
Not a gameplay trailer in any way, but...
No, I want to know what gameplay is of a space shooter in this day and age, because they don't seem to exist anymore.
No. Or when they do, there's Everspace coming. Everspace 2, that looks alright. And I suppose we had Eve Valkyrie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
No, but you're right, it's kind of not a very common genre these days.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like it's obviously it's not like a free space or X-Wing style, lots of complicated buttons type game.
No, I mean, I doubt
that would work.
Like a super hardcore one, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's room to still make a space shooter fun.
Yeah,
I hope so. What that is.
It's a shame that these genres just die.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem with like space shooters is like unless you wrap them in some sort of hook, a lot of them is just follow on-screen marker to you see thing, shoot roughly at thing.
Yeah, I know. Like,
and it's like actually being able to have a positional dogfight properly is kind of
hard.
spatially really hard. Yeah, like without maybe VR or something like that.
It's true.
And Elite Dangerous, I suppose, is the other biggie, if you want to count that in that genre. Yeah, so I don't know, vaguely interesting. Kind of want to see what that actually is. Well, what else was there that was of interest? You got any picks?
I think Chorus was the one I was most interested in.
I mean, we saw some Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That was supposedly an engine demo, so all that stuff was rendered.
Except Ubisoft didn't say so.
Yeah.
They called it a gameplay trailer and continued to call it a gameplay trailer whenever I called that out.
It's so not a gameplay trailer.
No. I mean, there might be about maybe 2 whole seconds of gameplay in there if you took all the fast cuts they took of various, like, stabbing moves.
I mean, that's the problem with a lot of this, right? There might have been some gameplay in a lot of these things. I mean, while we're on that subject, should we talk about the Madden thing? Because, oh my god, like that couldn't be further from a proper trailer if they tried. It's basically just like they recapped the history of Madden and then showed almost precisely 2 seconds of the next version, Madden 21. And then just had Mahomes talking about it for the rest of the time. It's like, rubbish.
That's basically what they always used to do at the EA press conference, though, where they'd just be like...
They'd show some game.
Yeah, but a lot of the time they wouldn't in the actual, like... They'd have the camera focused on the guy talking on the stage a lot of the time.
Well, yeah.
And they'd cut to the screen and show, like, a comparison of 2 dudes running, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it's getting better, maybe.
Yeah, look how much more fluid this is. Like, oh, look at that guy get tackled. Doesn't that look great? How crisp is the grass?
So it's not really that surprising, except it's slightly weirder that they did make they made an even more big deal than usual of just being like, yeah, we've improved over the last year and the last year before that, and it's like, yeah, we know how Madden works. I
mean,
it's been 20 odd years at this point.
Is it an anniversary year of any kind, or did they just do this because next gen?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's only 4 more years until they get screwed by their numbering convention.
Oh, well, because they put out Madden 25.
Yeah.
They'll just call it Madden 25. They won't care. You mean the new Madden 25? Yeah, I don't know. That was so weird, and it was made extra weird and like less meaningful by the fact that they immediately after that trailer they had to cut to an Xbox representative going, "Thank you, EA, for that amazing reveal," and we're just like, "Sorry, you clearly haven't watched it, have you? This was cut together."
And also, who is ever amazed by Madden reveals?
I mean, the tech in EA Sports games is cool, but it's a Madden game. Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I'd like to see some people get crunched up real good. Yeah, so there was that, and you can tell how good it was because I'm having a hard time actually remembering anything else, really.
Fair.
And OneNote on my phone has decided to not load the page, so great. This worked well.
Okay. Is that Xbox?
Hello. Here we go. Yeah. Oh wait, yeah. I did have one other note, and I know this is already out technically on PlayStation 4 in Japan, but Yakuza Like a Dragon looks badass. Even though it was like a story trailer, not a gameplay trailer.
But... Yeah, but it was stylish.
Oh man!
I mean, is that in like a new style, kind of?
Well, I think it's Dragon Engine based still. So the one that they've done the last 2 games in, or 3 games if you count Judgment. So I think it's still in that engine, but obviously next gen'd up a bit. But it's new characters. Like the only returning character I saw in that trailer was, of course, Majima.
Of course.
Which I'm super happy about. There's a fly. There's a really big ass fly buzzing around me now. Summer's here.
It's definitely here.
Yeah, I don't know. That game looks cool. And I'm actually kind of like super interested in the fact that it's a completely different tack. You know, the RPG style combat instead of the current combat, and it's like this is one of the biggest shakeups the series has had. So this is great. There's a giant enemy crab. He might not even be an enemy. He might be allied. We don't know. There's a giant crab. Hype.
You got to have a giant crab.
It's just the done thing. You can't have a next-gen console without a giant crab.
Certainly not a third-party gameplay reveal.
Real Japanese battles from history.
Ancient Japan.
That's never not going to be funny.
No. Ridge Racer.
So, that was Xbox. So then we got the Unreal 5 demonstration.
Yeah.
So this is real cool, because this is our first... This, to me, is the tech demo moment I wanted from Xbox.
Absolutely. This is the
on PlayStation and not from Sony.
Yeah, amazing. Obviously, this will run on Xbox, but PlayStation got the coup of presenting it for some reason.
Yeah, I think there's some backdoor shady deal around this, because Jeff Keighley did like a Q&A after the demo. Well, it was kind of the whole thing was kind of Jeff Keighley and some epic devs taking you through it, and like they seemed quite reluctant to even mention the word Xbox. They would refer to other platforms and occasionally mobile systems, and I think they mentioned iOS and Android by name at one point.
Right.
But they didn't seem keen on talking about literally saying the words Switch and the Xbox, which is usually a sign. I think Sony might be involved.
Definitely done some kind of deal, but obviously it will work across platforms, this tech, because it's Unreal Engine.
They 100% said that. Yeah, they were just it's Unreal Engine 5. It's going to be everywhere.
But still, they did go out of their way to say this is running on a PlayStation 5 hardware. And oh boy, that's some hardcore next generation leap kind of stuff.
This is the moment I was waiting for. Yeah, it's proper impressive stuff. Like non-ray traced bounce lighting was one of the focuses. And holy hell, that looks good.
But they basically, like, the geometry stuff was like, okay.
Yeah, this is the other thing. The
infinite detail,
engine,
basically.
Yeah, the nanite triangle engine. So, I mean, this is really clever, and I think they're going to have... There's probably some more that they didn't talk about here, or that Jeff didn't quite eke out of them in terms of deployment. So the idea is that instead of having to develop assets that will run on the platform of your, that you're targeting, you drop the asset of, they would use the phrase movie quality assets, so things that would have trillions of polygons to render a rock, something like that.
Sure.
And you just slap that asset into the game, and then the engine is dynamically level of detailing that to get the right level of geometry for what you're seeing on screen and the performance level you're targeting.
Yeah, amazing. So it's like virtualizing the geometry so that you get, you're not trying to render more polygons than there are pixels, but up to that point, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing.
It's like geometry megatextures.
Yeah, well, it is. It is.
It's 100%.
Yeah,
which hopefully that will require less disk space though. Vertexes should require less space than a giant texture, I guess.
That's the idea.
Would it though? Yeah, because it's
information, right? So
yeah, I mean it's a coordinate as opposed to 3 color values, but it's 3 positional values, so it might actually work out being pretty similar. But and you still have to texture it.
Well, yeah.
But man, it looks awesome, and the fact because it's such a big shift in how you build the game, because you don't have to make the different level of detail models work out when they switch, do the normal maps and everything. You don't even need normal maps, right?
That's the super interesting thing. Yeah, that you can actually do away with a whole load of graphic techniques we've had since Halo, I guess.
Yeah.
Halo 2. They're not. Yeah, because they're not needed. You don't. You're actually rendering them properly rather than needing to simulate it.
And that combined with the lighting, which isn't baked, and with the dynamic bounce lighting, which can't be I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say it can't be. It must be situations when you want to do some baking, right? I don't know.
Maybe, but they were saying at least for the purposes of that demo, it's totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
And it's I imagine that the bounce lighting must be some kind of they strayed away from using the term ray tracing, but
yes, they did, yeah.
But it's one of the applications of ray tracing, as we saw from the Minecraft RTX stuff recently. That they must be what's the word? Approximating something like that to get it to function right, or they're using some kind of an alternative way of doing ambient lighting around where bright sources are, some kind of direction. Yeah, it's still fascinating. It still looks really good, whatever approximation they're doing. So there was that, and there's also their particle engine they were picking up on, their new and improved particle engine they were using to render bugs in the darkness.
Oh yeah.
Because I can't remember the name of that one though. They named the other engines.
Yeah,
the triangle engine is Nanite. The bounce lighting engine is called Luma, of course. Yeah. And I forget what they called the particle engine.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, because they had the lighting interacting with the particles of the bugs, right? Where it was avoiding the light, which was kind of cool. And yeah, they were animated the particles or whatever. Okay. The one thing that didn't look that good, although it obviously wasn't a focus, was they were when she stepped into the water or whatever in the water simulation, and they were like, oh, this is a new water thing. I was like, that doesn't look very good.
Yeah, we're using our particle engine to simulate the water, and I'm like, that's the weakest part of this demo because it weirdly looked a little low res compared to everything else.
I mean, that was quite brief. Maybe they were just trying to show it off, but perhaps they should have held back on that one because that didn't look so good. But everything else, and then so they went through the whole canyon or everything, showing the ultra detailed rocks, and then they showed the ultra detailed crazy statue, and then showed a whole 500 of them in the same room, and then they showed off by making her fly through the environment super fast, right?
Yeah, which was again, I think, another Sony.
I think so,
thing, because they were saying, well, hey, because loading times aren't a problem, we can stream all this.
They're all about the memory bandwidth for PlayStation 5, aren't they? Yeah.
I think they were sort of talking about the fact that it's hey, we don't have to worry too much about turning the camera and having to unload and reload textures like some games do, because it's hey, they just stream straight off the SSD, no problem.
Yeah.
We deal with that now, and it's okay, there might be. It was the first time I think we, other than the Spider-Man demo, that we might actually have a decent contender for why the PlayStation tech makes more sense. That it's a decent demonstration of that. But we won't get that. What we really want is like, oh, hey, this is the same demo running on Series X. So it's like, okay, where are the corners that are being cut because of that streaming? Because the graphical power level must be, we know to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, and to be honest, like
bandwidth?
The Xbox bandwidth is way better than the previous generation. It's just not got all of this tech of the PS5.
Yeah, it's still really, really good in the Series X.
Exactly.
PlayStation 5 is really, really, really good. So it's I don't know. Yeah, this was exciting. This was good.
Yeah,
it was good to see.
It's cool. Looking forward to
the
games built in that way.
Problem is that the engine itself isn't available until next year.
Right, and then you have to build a game with it.
Yeah, there will be nothing in development right now using this.
No, apart from Fortnite.
Apart from Fortnite, yeah, which they did say they will push to use it as soon as they can.
Maybe some Gears game is being made with it. Who knows?
Well, maybe, but then Gears isn't even Epic anymore, is it?
Oh, is it not? Oh, yeah.
No, it's Microsoft and the Coalition.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that. So what have Epic got? Fortnite, loads of money, and
that's it.
Unreal Engine. Yeah.
I mean, they killed Unreal Tournament, that community built one.
Oh, that was open source, right? And,
it was a fully open source thing, but they don't support that anymore. I guess the community could still be about. But...
Yeah, that's a shame. Oh well.
I don't know what else Epic are in. Yeah, I don't think they're really doing anything themselves.
They're making frickin' The Mandalorian.
Well, yeah.
Which is hilarious. I mean, presumably this tech.
I wonder if some
use.
of this. Yeah, I wonder if some of this was what was used to film Mandalorian.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like early versions of it.
Yeah.
Movie asset. Well, the other thing, the bit I was getting to about deployment is like, okay, so if they were using all these movie quality assets, the file size for this thing is going to be insane.
Yeah.
Which is problematic. So I assume there must be something in their tool chain that's like, okay, I'm targeting 4K, so it can do a part, and maybe like by watching some playthroughs or something, some dynamic thing can be like, all right, you're never going to need an asset better than this particular quality level. So I'm going to scale everything up and package it all up. Or the flip side is like, you can't use all of these assets at maximum quality because it just can't run on Switch, for instance. So the tool chain decides to package up your assets for you in a way that works. It's like, I think there's an element that they didn't really touch on that side. They just sort of said, yeah, the engine will work. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. The file size and deployment is still important.
Yeah.
Like using a movie quality asset isn't going to fly unless your game is like 20 seconds long.
But, I mean, it's no worse than before, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
But they'll have to, yeah. There's some detail there. It'll be interesting to see what happens, what shakes out.
Because presumably currently you have to have the storage.
Gigs in a PlayStation. So.
Because I presumably right
that's
now
only
you have
like
to...
3.5 Call of Duties.
Yeah. At current tech.
Because you have to store like the highest level of detail and all the other levels of detail, right, for any given thing currently.
Well, true. Yeah, there is that thing. You don't have to store separate LOD models. But presumably, that's double at most for every asset because they get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
That was real good.
Yeah, real good. And a bit of a coup there for Sony, even though it had nothing to do necessarily with. Although
no, they haven't. I don't think they've come out and said anything themselves about that demo. The one thing Sony did do though is they had a long play, an actual gameplay demonstration of Ghost of Tsushima.
Indeed.
Which I don't think was super in depth, but it gave you that sort of just that hint. It wasn't quite a Nintendo Direct level of detail, or it was a bit like, oh hey, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. There's a fox you can pet. You can play the entire thing in Japanese cinema mode, which is bizarre but awesome. Yeah, that game continues to look real nice, but if anything, I might have been like, okay, this just looks like an open world game when I actually.
Yeah, it kind of is like, oh, it's Assassin's Creedy or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit. It was a double-edged effect on me. Honestly, I still think it looks good. I like their wind guidance system is a cool idea.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
The fact that they're keeping everything in theme with, I suppose, idyllic samurai myth is pretty cool. But I came away with like some question marks. It's like the whole they talked about the samurai versus ghost mentality a little bit, and it's like, well, the game is called Ghost of Tsushima, but you described that as the dishonorable way to play. So maybe I don't want to play all stealthy, and I just want to go in like as like I'm the badass warrior, fight me. Which is interesting in itself. There's ways to play, but now I don't know exactly what the game wants me to play as, or if there even is a want me to play at, and is that tonally going to be weird?
Well, I mean, that's quite interesting that there's honor thing, because like a lot of games that give you the choice kind of encourage the stealth as like the right way. Not necessarily, but like it's kind of the way I often
games that just benefit from the stealth, right? Because it makes the encounter easier if you do it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Whereas if like going in, is the more honourable thing, then maybe that will encourage that.
Yeah, cut off arrows mid-flight. Pretty cool. And I really want to know how that, because they showed that, again, the sort of like one-hit kill style combat with the sword. And it's like, well, I kind of want to know exactly how that works. I couldn't really see what kind of finger gymnastics you're doing to pull that off.
No. Yeah, I guess there's no way of knowing until we play.
No, sometimes, like, I've got a biscuit in my mouth, sorry. Sometimes it's like some sort of on-screen indicator to be like, press Y to parry or something like that, or some kind of indication of when you were supposed to do something. But I didn't get a feel for that here. It just sort of happened. If you know what I mean, the animation just sort of looked like it was playing out, and I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure what you're doing as a player to control that. Sometimes it's obvious. Here it kind of wasn't.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I think I'm feeling pretty much the same. I hope it's good. It looks good. I obviously want that to be a good one. Been looking forward to it for a while, so.
Oh, yeah, because it's been delayed for so much. We're committing to July. So that's the date they now keep saying. They're not far away. Also
get to the point where I only want to play the triplest of AAA games that only come along every fucking 3 years. Like, yes, I will play Zelda and Mario and Red Dead and God of War.
And the next GTA when that happens.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, I think we've known that about you for a while.
Yeah, you better triple up that A.
You want that hint of that fourth A just lingering.
Come on, Breath of the Wild 2.
Well, I don't know if you consider this other July game as a AAA, but hey, we've got a Paper Mario coming out.
As
quadruple A.
Yep.
Okay.
As predicted.
How 1,000-year Dory is it?
Well, they didn't really show
Probably
us much.
not enough.
God damn.
They didn't really show us much of how it actually plays. It was a lot of quick clips. I don't know if they've shown any more since that announcement trailer, but
well, not really. They showed a maybe like 2 second longer clip of the battle system,
right,
in a separate video, where it's just like literally pretty much a 10-second video.
I had a bit where there was like Mario was jumping on a load of heads in a row, and then there was something about lining them up on a circular board or something.
Yeah, it appears that like what they're doing a kind of a weird system where you have a time limit. Like the enemies are arranged on these rings around you, and you have to rotate them to be in lines. But you have like a literal time limit to do the ring rotation part to align to make the attacks better, I guess.
I mean, what's the probability that that's like a star power or something? Like,
I don't know.
One of these specials.
It did look like because it looks like from the slightly longer clip of this, you do the ring rotation first, and then you choose what type of attack you actually want to do. So he like picks jump, and then it jumps along the whole line of Goombas. But the other option there is like hammer, like the 2 normal attacks that Paper Mario usually does.
Oh, weird.
So I don't know.
They did say it was an all new battle system. So.
And of course, the hilarious meme of the internet that has come up with it is that they've helpfully misunderstood what a turn-based battle system means, because you're literally turning them.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty funny though. That's what it actually is, that they're gonna play on that. Because that's what they do. That's how the writing works in these games.
I guess, but you can't play on that and piss people off by it. It's like if it was funny, but like that's like a meta meme at that point. But yeah, apart from that, it's just like I think when I actually watched this again, I was like, I think my actual problem is not really so much to do with the gameplay, even though obviously I want it to be more like 1,000 Year Doors. I think I just don't like the like paper crafted world. Like if you think back to what like 1,000 Year Door was actually like, it's not made of paper. The world isn't actually made of paper.
That's true.
Well, to a certain extent, there's an awful lot of paper effects going on.
Yeah, but they're just effects on like regular ass 3D models most of the time. It's just like there's not actually. It's like because now in the modern versions they've gone like how Yoshi's Crafted World and everything, where it's just like or Kirby, where it's just like it's literally made of paper, and I don't think that's how that should have gone. It's like Paper Mario was just a weird, like, the characters were all 2D sprite, flat paper things, but it wasn't really like the world was. And
I'm not sure I'd get that vibe completely myself. Like, it looked like, things were still mostly solid, other than some things you could interact with that looked papery, but maybe I need to frame by frame this.
I mean, it's the sort of the textures, I guess. Like it looks like things are made of paper, and like the animations are sort of jaggedy, even because like the 2D sprite paper Mario and everything, it's all like 2-frame animations or whatever. But then that's also like translated into the rest of the world, sort of in the same way as Yoshi's Crafted style did, where it's like almost low frame rate animations,
a bit stop motion. You mean?
Yeah. I don't know if I like it that much. And because the thing, like, when you actually think about the style of 1,000 Year Door, when it did do actual paper effects, like if you like use the ghost lady to blow a thing away and to reveal a secret door or whatever, they're like meta effects. It's like it's blowing a piece of paper that's effectively on the top of the screen. It's like it's not in the world blowing a papery thing away.
Or like when stairs layered onto the screen, though, and a bit of paper is placed in, and then somehow it's 3D.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I'm thinking of like the plane pads, right, where you get on them and they were clearly made of stone.
Yeah,
or looked a bit stone-like anyway. Well, that whole palace actually, that whole area, kind of looked like stone.
So I don't know about it, but the thing, it's like that the battle system could be interesting and fine, but there was no hint of like RPG elements, which is what everyone's actually worried about, like leveling up and shit.
Yeah, I suppose they didn't show that. Where's my super detailed lemon though?
I don't think people like that very much.
What the realism attacks or whatever they had from Color Splash.
I think people liked it in theory, apart from the way it actually worked in that game, where you had to have those very specific attacks to just to defeat bosses, and you had to have a specific one. It left a bad taste, I suspect.
Yeah, maybe. They look cool though. With some detailed lemon.
So who knows whether people like that. But
we will see.
We've got to wait until there's some more gameplay.
It looks like halfway at least towards like more Thousand Year Door, right? A bit less. Yeah. So we shall see.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It definitely feels like a step in the right direction, but we've said that before.
From what we can tell so far, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, what do you think about who I assume is the bad guy, the sort of emo king, with his little hair flick over one eye in origami form?
Again, that's like them leaning too much into the crafts. It's not meant to be about.
He's origami.
Because like even in Thousand Year Door, when you fold up into a paper airplane or whatever, that's like a curse. It's literally a bad thing. Yeah, except it's not really, because that's ironical.
Ironical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, the paper airplane, like weird, like Star Wars sequence or whatever was going on in that trailer. Looked like there was a space cruiser made of paper at one point. Mild hype, which is possibly slightly more hype than I have for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2.
Really?
I don't know. That's like medium hype, I guess.
Yeah, because the problem is the history, right?
Yeah, but if they're remaking old ones, can't really fuck that up too badly.
Oh yeah, but even
they've done it before.
Yeah, they did the HD remaster stuff, which
that wasn't them, right?
Well.
But that was received better than Tony Hawk's 5, though.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I think this looks pretty encouraging, and I'm quite excited to play Tony Hawk's 1+2.
I mean, it definitely looks nice. I'll give it that. And they've got the original soundtrack, which is a bonus.
Mostly,
mostly, but, as always the mostly tag on soundtracks.
I think they've got the key parts.
But then prepare
running in a cyclone.
Prepare for everyone to get super annoyed because it's on Epic.
Just get it on PlayStation.
Or just wait a year.
Yeah.
Well, it's Activision, isn't it? Wouldn't it be on the... Well, it might be on the Blizzard store, if you're lucky. Because Call of Duty's there.
I'm medium hyped for it. Definitely. It was a good trailer.
It was a good trailer.
I can't tell if it's got reverts in it, because obviously 1 and 2 didn't. But I thought I saw...
think they will be pretty, faithful to it.
But the revert kind of completes the whole trick system. Like without that, you can't combo off the quarter pipes.
You just jump, don't you? Oh, off quarter pipes. That's what you mean. Outside. But you just jump.
Yeah,
just jump vertically. You'll be fine.
It's not like the levels are designed with reverts in mind. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. But that means you always end your combo if you go up on a vert trick.
Wouldn't you just be tricking in the air and landing in the same way that the revert did?
Yeah, but when you land, that's the end of the combo. Whereas
you manual off it.
Yeah, but that's what a revert was going into a manual off the vert trick.
Oh, I thought you could just do it anyway.
No, in the original games you could manual from, you could jump off a rail and go into a manual and then onto another rail, so you could combo forever that way, but you couldn't go into a manual off the vert trick. And that's what they added in 3.
Yeah, I always thought you could. I thought it was tricky at time, but it was doable. Yeah,
we'll see.
Never remembered. Yeah.
We shall see.
Doesn't matter. It's not, the combos weren't nearly as hardcore in 1 and 2. It was all about finding the gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the gap finding. And the names of them. Apparently they've aged the skaters is the other fun thing. Like, they're skating as their middle-aged selves.
Right.
Man,
Rodney Mullen's he's a bit craggedy now, isn't he?
Craggedy.
Yeah, we shall see.
But what about Darth Maul? Middle-aged Darth Maul.
What about Spider-Man? Middle-aged Darth Maul.
Wait, wasn't Darth Maul in 3 or something? Or was that 4 even?
That was 3.
I don't remember which one.
Maul,
I think 1 was Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
And then 2 was... 2 might have been Darth Maul, right?
I thought 2 had Spider-Man.
What was 3?
And there was the cop guy. I don't know what one he was from.
The cop guy.
Maybe Cop Guy was one.
Mayor Hagar. I'd skate as him.
No, wait, Spider-Man's got to have been in 2 because you remember they had the Bale video for Spider-Man that you unlock.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yes.
And those games were fun. I hope it's good. It seems pretty faithful compared to the previous efforts and recent stuff. So, and I wonder if they'll do 3 off the back of this. We'll see.
It's a sentiment I hear quite a lot in like YouTube videos now. It's like back in the day where games were fun. And it's like, oh right, yeah, they dicked around with these quite
back in the day when Tony Hawk's games were fun.
Well, there's that as well. Yeah, I can sort of see the sentiment though. Like a lot of games are made to be too realistic and lose something.
Yeah, well, I liked Skate. Like it's just a different style completely. Like I like that more realistic style of skating probably more, honestly. But like Tony Hawk's is like it's like a weird arcade game. That was just really good.
Yeah, there's plenty of things trying to recapture that skate feel though coming up.
Yeah,
like I think there's the Skate XL, there's Session. There's
Session just didn't look. I don't know, just doesn't look quality enough.
It's like
did that even come out, or like because we haven't heard about it for a while? So.
I think it might have.
Yeah, clearly it did get a huge release then.
It's like basically somehow. Even though skate, like this real life skating, it was meant to be quite an indie scene. Indie game developers are not sufficient. You need AAA to make your skate video games.
Yeah,
apparently.
I mean, Skate like made all the street stuff like really cool. I really like the system with the flatland tricks. Yeah, and I really like the system with the sticks and everything, and the way it's like a kind of Street Fighter combo thing where you twisted them around and stuff, but it was sort of analogous to your feet on the board. It was kind of, I don't know, it was cool.
There was definite skill to it, and it was when EA were experimenting a lot with that analog control scheme, like across its games, right? Because you had the analog fighting in Fight Night. They moved a lot of their stick control and shot system in NHL to be analog at that point as well.
Yeah.
So it was in that era of them experimenting with all analog, and this was one of the better examples. Although the physics are still hilarious. Was it the skate-free glitch videos? Great.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's a rich theme.
Yeah, I think it was mostly around the stuff you could edit and place yourself. And like the physics of how it handled that stuff was where things went awry.
It's kind of hilarious looking back at Skate. I mean, obviously Tony Hawk's, but Skate was at a weird point where like it was all based around your like T-Mobile sidekick, non-smartphone, pre-smartphone, smartphone thing. Yeah, it was hilarious. That was like your menu.
Nice. I'm all for the return of like dumb extreme sports games though. Bring back Amped.
Oh yeah,
Amped 3 was a cool game. And I know there's a bit of a contingent behind bringing back SSX that hasn't happened.
But they already tried.
They did try and it didn't work.
Where's the Cool Borders remaster?
Oh man! But that's a series that went the other direction. Like they started out crazy arcade, and then then Cool Borders 3 landed, and it was actually kind of serious. It was a impressive game, and I love Cool Borders 3 a lot, like back in the day. But yeah, they took a very different direction.
They took it opposite course.
Yes.
I think that was one of the lyrics from Cycling.
I'm in the zone. What else we got? Halo 2 launched on PC's Master Chief Collection.
How do you get that game? Do you get it from the Windows Store or something?
You can get it through the Windows Store, or you can get it through Steam.
Oh, cool. So if I want to play me some Halos, like right now, can I just get it?
You can buy the Master Chief Collection.
You can get some of the Halos.
You currently get Halo Reach, Halo 1. I don't know if it's got Halo 1 Anniversary, but it's got Halo 1 somewhere. And this is Halo 2 Anniversary. So
Right, which is better than, like, it seemed like that was a better remake than the Halo 1.
Halo 1 Anniversary, yeah, for sure. Yeah. They did a way better job this time round. Or it felt a little more faithful, like, design-wise.
Although I prefer Halo 1 as a game. So, anyway.
Yeah, I can see that.
Halo 2 probably was a bit too ambitious and probably benefits more from a up-res in some ways.
So this was... not to segue completely into what you've been playing, but this was an opportunity for me to check in with Halo Reach to see if they'd fixed any other problems I had had a hard time dealing with.
Sure.
The first time I picked it up. And while I didn't have so many sound glitches this time, and it seemed to play fine, the sound mix is still awful. It's just the mix of it. Like, guns sound like nothing.
Yeah.
It's really disappointing. It's like I think it looks and plays fine now, as far as I could tell. But as long as you've got it capped to 60 frames per second, which is how I was playing it. But yeah, the gun noises are just pathetic. It's a really weird problem to have. I don't know why. I just don't understand.
It's just a damn shame.
Yeah. It's a huge feel problem.
After they get called out by Digital Foundry, why don't they just fix it? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm amazed that they have come out with these other, that Halo 2 has come out and Halo 1 was put out before they decided to go back and actually fix their core problems. Because I honestly, I haven't checked in to see if there are those problems still in Halo 1 or Halo 2 since then, because I was just so put off by how Reach was done.
Yeah. I mean, if Halo 2 is working and is good, I'd be up for playing that. I wonder how those run on my now ancient PC.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It'll be absolutely fine, even especially if you're not going to run the anniversary mode, like in graphic enhancements.
Oh, and just run the original mode, yeah.
Yeah. It'll run super well. Because Reach runs super well, let's be honest. It's
cool. Well, I might consider giving that a back. Got my Xbox 360 controller, so I got the right controller.
Excellent. And the only other bit of news I've got is BioWare have said that Anthem 2.0's overhaul will be a much longer process, which is an interesting quote because it's like longer than what? Longer than we think, I guess.
Longer than they originally thought that we don't know what they were thinking?
Yeah, I guess. But that's fine. Leave it a bit. Like, let Anthem be forgotten a little bit, and then when it comes back, people might care again.
Risky.
Yeah, it is a risky play, but, what else are BioWare doing right now? We've yet to see anything about what Dragon Age. That's the only other thing we know that they're on at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
If EA are going to let them cook it for longer, then that can only be a good thing, right?
I mean, I don't know what to do about Anthem at this point.
Well, I mean, you do what they're doing, I suppose.
Yeah,
take a long, hard look at it and redo the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
And that was the other little tidbit. Not from this story, but from another story. Respawn have said there is no current Titanfall game in the works.
Even though they kind of implied that they were working on Titanfall 3 while they were doing Star Wars.
Well, yeah, there maybe wasn't a Titanfall 3, but there was something else in the Titanfall universe other than Apex, but apparently maybe that got canned. They've not been super clear. But I guess Apex is still a thing, so they don't need to care that much. I don't know. I'd like to see another Titanfall, damn it.
Yeah.
I like the first two games quite a bit.
Guess we're kind of lucky they made two, to be honest.
and it's amazing. A fantastic campaign, albeit a short campaign, but and the multiplayer was better than ever. So it was a good game. Let's see more. Get him. And that's news. That's all I got.
That's the news.
Dem's the newsuals.
It is time. Do you know what time it is?
For a sip of my drink?
It's time to sip your drink. It's also time for what you been playing? The question that I have to ask on the podcast. And I'm going to ask it of Zach.
Yes.
Now, what have you been playing, Zach?
Now! Well, obviously I've still been playing Animal Crossing, still hanging around. Sort of not playing it nearly as much, obviously, at this point. It's going into the sort of standby mode of just maintenance.
Have you maxed out pretty much most of what the game has to offer then?
Well, because you can only get the bugs and fish and whatnot so quickly, since they appear in different months. Now it's just we can kind of wait. I'm sure they'll patch in some more events or whatever. I don't think there's any more coming up that we know of. Oh, apart from Museum Day, I guess. But that doesn't seem like it's a very big thing. So yeah,
Museum Day.
Just been sort of hanging out. I've started to try and do the unnecessary trick of moving rocks, because they allowed you to move whole trees. You eat fruit and then you can just dig up an entire tree and just put it somewhere else. Right. And it's wow, that's great. We can just move these trees around without having to cut them down and plant them again and have them grow over 3 days or whatever. It's okay, that's cool. But you can't do that for rocks still. And it's why did you not let us do this for rocks? Because if you eat the fruit and hit a rock, the rock just breaks. And then the next day, it respawns at a random location.
That's quite funny. And how random are we talking? Middle of town random?
Yeah, pretty much. It seems like it doesn't spawn on pavement, at least. So if you've paved any areas, that will probably prevent it from spawning. But yeah, if you want to put the rocks in a specific location, then you have to go through this whole process of basically intentionally obstructing every possible place they could spawn to force them to spawn where you want them to spawn. Which is annoying. It's much easier to do if you do it very early on when you don't have much stuff on your island, because then you can actually just basically place an item every 2 spaces in a grid, and that will cover all the possible spawns, because the rocks need a 3x3 area that they'll spawn in to be clear. So if you place items on the 2x2 grid basically across the entire island, that will force them to spawn where you want. But if your town's already got a lot of stuff in it, I'm just running around being is that a 3x3 space? Is that a 3x3 space? Try and put a thing there. Just to try and cover all and it's been an entire week and a half that I've been doing this, and it's just you turn on the game at the start of the day and okay, where's the rock spawn? Does it spawn where I want it to? Has it managed to find somewhere new? And it's oh, it's over there. Damn it. Destroy it and put something in the way. Block that spawn point. So I've managed to get 2 out of 6 of the rocks to spawn in the right place so far. But that's only randomly that they've spawned in the right place, because all the other times they have still found places to spawn. So yeah, I'll probably get that done this week, I guess. Because I must be getting close to having covered every single possible spawn place.
Presumably.
Yeah, at this point. And then once I get that done, I can finally fucking deal with my goddamn flowers. Which, while I have been not playing as much, I've just been leaving the flower beds to grow as much as they want. So just even more flowers are spreading all over the place. It's yeah, at some point I'll come back and deal with that. After I'm done with these goddamn rocks. Rocks clearly more time sensitive than flowers. So there's that.
Animal Crossing.
I played a couple of runs of Enter the Gungeon, I guess, because
I
was sort of wanting to play something slightly more active that wasn't Rocket League, I guess. It's the standard procedure. So I ran some more Gungeon runs and had a couple of kind of interesting, weird combos. Things I hadn't seen before. I had possibly my favorite combo that I'd seen so far is, this is mostly for Rob's benefit because it's describing mechanics that he'll know about, I guess. But I got Sir Junkton, the junk.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sweet, this is a junk run. So now I'm starting to shoot chests and get extra junk to power up Junkton. And it's like, well, that's cool. But then, like, midway through that run, I got the baby chest mimic, which turns into a copy of whatever follower you have. So now I've got 2 Junktons, and I'm pairing them both up. So I then towards the end, so by the end I'd got him up to, like, I don't know if it was maximum. It might have been like 1 less than maximum. It's like Paladin Junkton, where he turns white and has like a full sword and shield and does like little spin attacks. And like occasionally, if there's a bullet coming towards you, he like dives in front of you and blanks it.
Oh, that's cool.
But then there was 2 of them, so I was like, this is sweet. In fact, towards the end of that run, I was like, I'm just going to stand in this corner and let them go and deal with all the enemies. So that was pretty funny. I also got the combo of getting the AK-47 and the JK-47.
What does the JK do?
The JK is like the fake AK. It looks like the normal AK, but then when you pick it up, it goes all floppy.
Okay.
But if you have both of them, you dual wield.
So
you've just got
the floppy one fire.
It's similar to the AK, just a lot slower and slightly less accurate.
Well, yeah, I'd hope a lot less accurate if it's floppy.
Yes. But dual wielding them is pretty hilarious. Just both the AKs in each hand. And I did eventually get another run where I beat the Lich, except it was a paradox run where you have to play the whole game again after you've beaten the Lich, and then I didn't manage to succeed on the whole second run through.
Jeez. What's different on the second run to make it worthwhile?
The trick with the paradox is, like, on the first run you start with a random starting gun, but like the powered up version of the random starting gun. So like it's better than the default one, and then a random secondary weapon and a random passive or active. So like one other item. And if you get all the way through that run and beat the Lich at the end,
then like normal chests and stuff.
Yeah, normal chests and all the normal stuff. If you get to the end and beat the Lich, then when it does the gun that can shoot the pass sequence where you target the Lich and it shoots him, and then like the time warp happens. Because the whole point of the paradox is that you then play as the gunslinger, who is the one that becomes the Lich in the future of the Gungeon. So then that second run, you're playing as the gunslinger in his past, going through the Gungeon to get to the original Lich, I guess. But then the gunslinger's special ability is that basically every gun he picks up automatically gets its synergy, regardless of, you don't have to have any of the actual items that cause the synergy. Okay. You just get the synergy.
That's cool.
So yeah, it just makes all your guns quite powerful. But then obviously you're back to zero on like all your equipment and everything. So that first run is basically totally erased.
Does the gunslinger like you only can play as in this second paradox run?
And although I'm presuming maybe you unlock him if you actually succeed with the paradox.
No, I see. Huh.
But yeah, I haven't managed. I think on that run I did actually get back to the Lich again as the gunslinger, but then I discovered that I think it was hard to tell because I died quite quickly and I was just so overwhelmed. But I'm pretty sure I was fighting 2 Liches at once, which is going to be real difficult.
That's that's a long old commitment.
Yeah, it's like at least 2 hours.
Jeez. And there's no way of saving mid-run, is there, in Gungeon?
Yeah, there is. You can save at the end of a floor.
Oh, that's not so bad then.
But it's like I kind of don't want to because it's just you break your flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe when you finish the first half.
Yeah, because you're pretty much reset anyway. Yeah. So yeah, there's that. One day maybe I might actually succeed on that, and then I can do the other even more secret thing. Like I haven't done the because I'm not even sure how you get it, but I haven't done the advanced dragon, like the actual thing that they added in that whole patch for advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Haven't done the advanced dragon because I don't know how that actually happens. But then, I might end up looking it up and discover that it was one of those things that you're never going to naturally find out. Like how to unlock the robot and all that hassle.
And Into the Gungeon's so rad.
Yeah. Especially if you get the rad gun.
Nice.
Yep. Nice indeed. And then, as I said last time, the Terraria patch happened yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So I haven't actually been able to play it that much, but,
That's it. That's the last version, right? Of
apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, considering how many years they've continued to randomly come back with even more huge updates.
Is there going to be like a patch run on this update at some point, you reckon?
Well, I mean, there will be fixes, sure, but probably
that's
not
it
anything.
For features.
Yeah.
But is there a lot in this release?
It's hard to tell from, the early game especially, probably. There's a bunch of new items, obviously, because that's, it's fairly easy to make content for that game, I guess.
Right.
To chuck in a bunch of new random equipment and stuff. But, quite a lot of things have been rebalanced, which is noticeable even in the early game. Like the maces, the way they function has sort of modified to make them more viable for longer. Because they used to be real good in the very early game, but then became completely overwhelmed too quickly to stay useful. But they seem to have been rebalanced to make them a bit more useful overall. And then there's just a bunch of extra graphical niceties, some sprite redraws, but then just wind effects and, it's sort of in the same way as Minecraft does when you get the Minecraft shaders that make everything wobble or whatever. It's basically that, but for Terraria. Just make that pixel art less just basic pixel art and add effects to it that wouldn't be possible in the actual game of pixel art.
Wibble it.
Yep, wibble it. So yeah, I've been running around that again, and I haven't, tried any of the new difficulties, I guess. In fact, I don't know if I ever tried even expert, because you have the default difficulty, and then the hard. It's weird because you play through on normal difficulty. There's a point where you reach a toggle that sort of changes the whole world, which is called hard mode, except it's not actually hard mode. It's just a second half of normal mode.
Right.
Because then the actual hard mode is called expert, where, things are actually harder from the beginning. But then they've now just added master, which is even harder than expert, which is just okay, that's ridiculous. And then, obviously, the namesake of the patch, they've added journey mode, which, even though I said to Rob last week how there was the weird rumor about it being creative mode and how it's how could you possibly equate journey and creative? That's two completely different concepts. It is sort of the creative mode, kind of, where it doesn't give, normally when you think of a creative mode, it's like Minecraft where they just give you everything and you can build everything infinitely or whatever. It's just the menu completely changes to just give you access to all of the blocks and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But journey mode in Terraria gives you the ability to build anything infinitely, but only if you've acquired it. So it's you still have to progress through the game.
Oh, interesting.
To acquire at least one of the thing, and then you can build it infinitely afterwards.
So you've got a replicator, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Once you've got
and then it has some sort of more typical creative options, you can just change the spawn rate freely. So if you don't want any enemies to spawn for a while, you can just turn off spawning. And that's on a per player basis as well, I think. So you can have one person somewhere in the world with spawns turned off, but someone else who's still somewhere else in the world has enemies still spawning on their screen.
Okay. But if anyone else was nearby that other player, they'd get the enemies too?
Yeah, presumably. Yeah, I guess it must pick the highest level of spawn. So yeah, there's that. I expect we'll be playing that quite a lot. I mean, so I've got my world, and then I've already had people coming into my world, and then I went on with Kippers and Jammy as well and played in their world for a while. So
yeah, really cool.
Everyone's just going to be playing that for quite a while, probably.
Nice,
sweet.
That's nice to have a little bit of resurgence.
Yes. And then the other thing before Terraria came out was another game that had been on my wish list for quite a while, but I was convinced that now was the time because they released a huge patch as well. It was Scrap Mechanic, which is more or less what you'd expect a name like that to be. It's the sort of Space Engineers-esque kind of thing of building, vehicles out of blocks in a survival situation where you're harvesting like wood and metal and patching it into janky ass vehicles.
Making bigger and bigger janky ass vehicles.
Yeah, and trying to fight your way through the robot hordes to some objective that we don't really know. It's the first version of their survival mode is this big patch, which you can kind of tell because it doesn't really tell you what the shit to do.
Nice.
Like there's a button on the UI for like a journal, which you assume would be like to tell you the missions of where, like to hint you where to go or whatever. But that button never enables at any point.
Right.
So it does try and like lead you a bit with the design of the world, whereas like you start next to your crashed ship and it's on fire and you're like, oh well shit, I better go and find a pool of water and get a bucket and put the fire out, and then you can access the computer console, and the computer console's like, go and cut down some trees because you need wood to make this thing that you're clearly going to need, or get a giant battery from this place nearby. And then there's like a road, and it's fairly obvious that once you get a vehicle, there's like, yeah, you should probably follow this road, and then the road leads you down to like, here's the next up point where you get better crafting options. So it does kind of try and lead you in the way the world is designed, but then it also...
Is this all randomly generated, or is this like sculpted?
It's kind of half randomly generated, like, because I've played it on like a different save as well as the one we were playing in multiplayer. And it's like, it still tries to create a road that leads between these 2 points, but then like the actual layout of the road and the surrounding landscape is randomized.
Okay. But so the way it progresses is the only fixed thing.
Yeah. But the trouble is, like, even though it has this road that leads you through these obvious routes, it then completely breaks that itself in a really dumb way. Where like you follow the road to like the point where you get better crafting, and you're like, okay, good, this will be a good place to set up a temporary base while we probe further. Use this place as our like to refuel all our vehicles or whatever. You go down the road a bit further and you find like a packaging plant, and it's like you're meant to feed it like vegetables that you grow, because the weird thing about the story of this is you're basically coming to this planet which is a giant robotic farm planet, but the robots have got out of control and killed everything as robots
Naturally.
tend to do.
As is their want.
But then what that means is if you start planting crops, the robots detect it as unauthorized farming, and then they attack in like they attack during the night like zombies would in a survival game. The typical kind of thing. So you find this packaging plant and you're like, oh, you're meant to feed this vegetables, but then obviously you have to grow the vegetables, so that's encouraging you to deal with the wave defense system and all that. So you get a bunch of vegetables, you feed it into the packaging plant, it packages the vegetables into a big crate, and then you're like, well, what the shit do I do with this? Because if you follow the road from then on, there's just like, there's another packaging plant where you can feed different fruit and vegetables to package those. And then if you follow the road even further, you get to like, or I'm not sure this is always the case, but we got to like this giant tower that had this type of robot that has ranged attacks, and you only have melee to start with.
Right.
So we were like, well, we can't go there yet, clearly, so we must be missing something. Like, where the hell do we take all these packaged foods? And that's the problem, because the answer is you're meant to find this like hidden human encampment that's surrounded by cliffs, so you can't see it from far away.
Right.
You're meant to find that, and that's where you have to deliver the packaged food to. But it's like it's literally hidden.
Right.
So they've led you along this path to be like, drive down this road, and you'll helpfully be led onto this progression, and then there comes a point where it's like, and now we're not going to tell you this, but you totally have to not do that. So, hopefully the journal, if they finish that will solve that problem at least.
Yeah, it begs the question, like, why would you, like, as a survivalist, be like, well, why am I going to package this fruit up, like, without any prompting? That was the bit that struck me as weird. It's like, I found the packaging plant. I'm naturally just going to do it because it's something to do.
Well, it's because it has basically what are giant tutorial signs. Like, you find these occasionally in the world where it shows you how to. Right at the start, there's the one that tells you how to farm, where it's like, put the crop in the soil, water it, then wait some time, and then it grows. There's a big sign that just says that. So when you come down to the packaging plant, and there's a big sign there that tells you, you have to drive your vacuum tube up against this bit, and then this fruit will go in and get packaged. And so you're like, okay, it's telling me to do that, so obviously there's a reason to do that, but then what?
Yeah. Weird. I don't know. I don't immediately. There's something about like in-game tutorials like that sometimes where I think like the realism element of it is like, well, if I was to be in the middle of nowhere and I stumbled upon a bottle of pills and I looked at it and was like, instructions, consume pills. My first thought wouldn't suddenly be to like, I'm just going to eat these.
Well, in reality, pills have quite a lot more instructions than just consume pills on them.
True.
Consume.
So yeah, we played a fair bit of that, but I mean, now Terraria has kind of taken over, so maybe we'll come back to that at some point. I feel like we haven't really found the full game yet, even. Because it seems like if we can get into that tower that's guarded by all the ranged enemies, the thing you get from trading the fruit in is you get a gun, basically. So you actually have a ranged attack. So it's like, if we get that, then we can fight the ranged enemies, we can get into that big tower, and then I suspect that what should unlock in that tower will be like more crafting options, because you really don't get very many parts or anything by default. So all your vehicles feel like pretty much just a flat plank with 4 wheels attached to it at the moment. It's like, clearly there's going to be more parts, but we just haven't got them. So they've got to be in this tower, right? Maybe?
So what's the rest of the game if this is the new survival mode?
It originally was only creative. It was just like, it was just to build mechanical vehicles, and because you can, you can program them to like, puzzles. Yeah, you can program them to, pistons and rotate in order or whatever, so you can build quite fancy things. But yes, it was just creative. And maybe, I think at some point they also added some kind of challenge mode where it was like little maps where it's like, move this ball in, a bit like the Siege, really.
Okay. Yeah.
Move this ball into this location by building a vehicle to do it, or whatever. But apparently those got taken out when Survivor got put in for some unknown reason. So right. Challenge mode still has a menu option, it's just greyed out.
Maybe they're changing it all.
Yeah.
But then some of those weird to take it out, I suppose.
Yeah.
And be like, we've just revamped the whole thing. You've lost your progress, sorry. I take it this is all early access.
Yes. Maybe they did just break it in some of a fundamental way when they did whatever they did to make Survival.
Oh, right, yeah. And instead of just letting people carry on, they were like, we've broken it, we're just going to turn it off for a bit.
Yeah.
We haven't got time to fix it, but we really want to put this update out.
So there's that. And we're still waiting on Satisfactory. Because, man, there's just too many games for me right now. In a surprising turn of events.
The factory boom hasn't stopped.
Yeah. It looks like Satisfactory is probably going to make its sometime in May date. Judging by the patches that have been happening on the Epic version. They do look like they're of the kind of tidying up kind of patch where it's like getting ready for a release on a different platform.
Right. But so is the early access available on Steam now? Or is
no.
Okay, they've just got a page.
Yeah, they've just got the store page, but it still only says coming soon.
Okay.
They just announced on their Twitter or whatever, they were like, it's probably going to come out sometime in May.
Bit like the Panzer Dragoon page. Come on!
And that's more or less that, I think.
Been waiting for that for a while, that Terraria update.
Yeah. It's I don't know if I should continue playing the normal difficulty or whether I should actually try and play expert. Because I played normal difficulty Terraria a lot. But it's, even normal difficulty Terraria isn't easy.
No. So it might be a bit much, right?
Especially if I end up doing that part of it by myself. That's the thing. Because, obviously, if you have a whole shit ton of people, that the difficulty doesn't really scale in Terraria, I guess, you could say.
Does it spawn more because there's more people there, or?
I don't think it does, except for maybe some of the events that literally are just spawn tons of enemy events. Those might scale slightly, but I don't think, obviously, the bosses or anything don't scale, so their health doesn't even scale. So if you just have a whole shit ton of people shooting it, they'll die faster. Or at least that's the way it used to work. Maybe they've actually changed that now. Didn't seem like it when I defeated the first boss with one other person. It was like, yeah, that seems like how much health it always had.
It was an interesting decision in and of itself.
I mean, technically, I've never actually beaten the last boss of Terraria. I think we tried it one time and just got completely annihilated and then never got around to trying it again.
Yeah. Dissuades you from doing expert mode, I guess, if you can't finish it.
Yeah. Although getting to that last boss is most of the game.
Yeah.
And I guess, that's the last boss of the sort of main path, but there were a couple of secret optional bosses we didn't do either. So there is still technically Terraria content that I've never seen, even outside the new stuff that's been added. So more of that until Satisfactory comes out.
Counting the days.
And then Zach's factory life collapses in and onto itself.
Yep.
It'll be programming trucks. Build another truck.
I saw some recent murmurings about Dwarf Fortress tile sets or something. What was that about?
It's that whole new graphical mode, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think they announced that a little while ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to make because tile sets were always like a janky hack, basically.
Yeah.
So now they're trying to implement them for real for the Steam release, if that ever actually happens.
Making an already complicated game at least vaguely accessible.
Mildly accessible.
Yeah.
Right then, Rob, what you been playing?
Oh God, we could be here a while. It's been a busy couple of weeks for me in games. Let's start with the Tough Gaming VG27AQ, a 144 Hz gaming monitor that I now own.
Ooh,
that's not a game.
It's not a game, no, but it's kind of interesting to talk about because it's kind of it led me to try a few things. Obviously, to get it all tested out. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's an
long story short.
It's an IPS panel that can go up to 165 hertz if you overclock it. But I haven't really messed with that all too much because 144 is fine. And a lot of the games I've been playing can't really or haven't been able to go over that frame rate. As the way I should say it. It's G-Sync compatible. So it's certified under that new G-Sync compatible range, and it's FreeSync happy as well. It's my first time owning an IPS panel as well. All the ones I've had previously have been TNs. So
IPS.
Yeah, that's the first thing you immediately know is, oh, this is vivid.
Yeah,
there's some colours going on here. So stills look quite nice, and it's one of the best in class for motion blur for an IPS panel and stuff like that for a reasonable price point. It's 1440p, so not 4K, but that's fine because my PC wouldn't be able to drive 4K in most cases. It's real nice, but it has highlighted some weird deficiencies in places where Windows isn't quite geared up for this new level of tech yet. So one of the things it has is it's got this HDR compatibility. Now it's not a good implementation of HDR. You shouldn't be buying this monitor if you want an HDR experience, because you've still got to pay the megabucks if you want that out of a PC monitor, or just buy a TV. but the Windows implementation kind of shonky. So I turned it on basically in Windows because you have to go into the color settings of in the Windows settings and say, "Oh, enable HD color mode, please." And you turn it on, and it goes. The screen blacks out a bit, and it comes back, and then you can tell that the way that it's scaling color, I suppose, is slightly different. Like it actually washes it out a little bit because I guess it's extending the range. The monitors, the way the monitor handles it, I guess it's extending its range of color as opposed to actually changing like the upper and lower limits, like HDR should to some degree. This is why it's HDR compatible, I guess.
Right.
So it's doing 10-bit color over a smaller range, I suppose, of actual color, a smaller gamut. But then, which is whatever. But when I was playing a game that had HDR support, and it's like it looked fine. Yeah, it wasn't like super, like my TV does. It wasn't that good HDR. But whenever I noticed that whenever I tried to change the volume, the screen blacked out for a bit, and I'm like, well, that's weird. What on earth is going on there? What button am I pushing on my keyboard that is triggering something there? Like, is F2, which is like the function button on my keyboard for volume up, is that doing something in the game to change its render mode? And it's like, no, that wasn't it. And then I got an achievement later on because I heard it pop up. But the moment that I heard the pop, the screen blacked out again, and I'm like, well, that's weird. What is causing that? So it turns out the Windows overlays, like the volume control indicator, like notifications, they all render in SD color still, but because they're overlaying over HD content when you're full screen, Windows swaps back to SD color mode to put the notifications on screen. Except what was happening is they were appearing and disappearing fast enough that it was swapping to SD mode, and before the monitor got there, it was swapping back to HD color.
Right.
So Windows' handling of full screen HDR is still bad.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't even know if you can turn off those overlays for like volume and things.
That's the thing, yeah.
You could probably turn off the achievement pops, but
that's really bad. You get an achievement and you suddenly lose everything.
Oh, I can't see anything. What's going on? Yeah, it's a bit weird. So Windows HDR tech clearly isn't there yet.
No.
Which is a bit of a shame. But as I say, that's not what I was going in for this monitor for. It's just something to be aware of, I think, if you were going in for a solution like that.
That's interesting. I'd never have thought that. That could be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you'd think like Windows has HDR support. You'd think like, oh, fine, great, cool, this is just going to work. Doesn't just work. And so I've been... I put it through its paces a little bit. I think G-Sync is lovely.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. And because I had a really nice test scenario for it, as it turned out, because I tried playing some Forza Horizon 3 again. I went back to that one because it's like, well, I want to play the Hot Wheels stuff some more because I never finished the Hot Wheels campaign in that. So let's try this out. That'll be fun. And so I used to get like a nice solid 120 frames at 1080p.
Yeah,
but under 1440p, I can't quite reach that.
Enough. Yeah.
I'm not on ultra graphic settings anyway. So it drops down to about 100, just over. But you'd be hard pressed to tell because G-Sync smooths out all the stuttering, and it's brilliant.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. That's
magic,
the
whole
isn't
point.
It?
I know, and it works. It's fabulous.
Like, who cares if you're not hitting 120?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I don't need that. That consistency isn't a requirement anymore, which is it works and it's great. Because I tried it on Overwatch as well, which admittedly has some dynamic resolution stuff you can turn on.
Right.
But I wasn't hitting 120 on that either, running at 1440 with everything turned up. But again, I didn't notice a single stutter. So the tech is great. Love it. If you're sensitive to that stuff, so the micro stutter, then I can't really recommend G-Sync enough. It is effective. So there's that. The resolution bump is obviously nice, and it's a bigger screen as well, which I thought would potentially be a problem on my desk, but it's less of a problem than I thought because the bezels are so much smaller. I made that mistake on my TV before and didn't get away with it, so it's nice to have gotten away with it this time. It's a decent monitor. I don't know if you've experienced IPS glow at all, though, Dan.
What is that exactly? I probably have.
So IPS glow is the thing where, although the screens are pretty good at dealing with blacks most of the time, around the corners you can occasionally get a yellowish tint on pure blacks or like dark screens where how the backlight works on IPS screens, and it's a bit of a mixed bag whether or not you get a screen that has that badly or not. And I've got basically an average quality IPS glow by the looks of it on my panel, which is fine. I can't really do anything about it. It's not like it just comes with the territory on IPS apparently, and it's like so I've got a little bit of it. And yeah, it's mildly annoying that it's there because it's only in one corner of the panel, like in the bottom right. And you can mitigate it by making the screen higher so your eyes are more in line with that corner. But then the monitor's really high.
Right, yeah.
So there's that to be aware of. If that's going to be a bit of a problem for you, then yeah, IPS glow, it is a thing. It's like I kind of thought that like when people take photos of monitors, there's usually it kind of exaggerates the flaws a little bit when like places like rtings.com or ratings or however you say their name take photos of things as like bloom is exaggerated because it's just that's how the camera tech picked up that effect and that they're using to photograph the screen with. So I thought the bloom effect was perhaps exaggerated, and it's not so much.
Right, like you can see it. Yeah,
it's there. Yeah. But the general uniformity of the screen is way better than my previous monitor, which was, getting on for like 10 years old or something. I don't know. I don't like that. This LG screen must be ancient now. Yeah,
well, you had high refresh rates.
Right? Yeah, I had 100 because it was 3D. Like this, the early days of when Nvidia 3D was a thing.
Yeah, that's what it was for. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I've got some stuff I think still to tweak on it. I've got a bit of overshoot when I'm running at lower refreshes. So overshoot is when a pixel is told to target a specific color, in order to get the response times down, they tend to over voltage it a little bit, briefly.
Right.
Sometimes that can cause a little bit of an overshoot effect. So the pixel goes too far down that ramp that they're trying to achieve and then comes back into the range of the color it's supposed to be. So you can see that when you're scrolling black and white text, for instance. And this monitor seems really good at dealing with that at high refresh, but at lower refresh, weirdly, the overshoot is more obvious. And apparently, according to like some research I've done, there are some settings you can do to get around that, but they are settings you have to change yourself if you're swapping refresh rates. Which I won't have to do all that often if I hope not anyway. But just a thing, if you're playing a game like at 60 or lower, then you might need to think about that. If that's if you're running a really hardcore game or something, and like the frame rate drops that low, you might start to have an overshoot issue. So there you go. That's my review of that monitor. It's nice.
Sweet.
It's a good mid-range monitor.
It's a bit better than mid-range, isn't it?
Well, it's mid-range in the gaming space because it's about 450 quid off Amazon, which is a lot for a monitor, I suppose. But like the slightly higher Asus monitors, you're talking sort of like 700, 800, or the new ViewSonic that looks quite nice. You're talking that range. And if you want the 4K full package. With the exact
which you're not going to be able to drive without.
Which I'm not going to be able to drive at the moment. Yeah, not unless you have like the ridiculous cards. You're talking like nearly as much as $2,000.
I mean, that's silly.
Yeah, those screens are still super expensive. You might as well just buy a big ass telly.
Get those stupid Apple Pro monitors of doom.
Yeah, a little bit like that. But that tech's just not quite there yet for this sort of size. Weirdly. And high refresh rate and all that jazz. Yeah, so that's cool. I've been messing around with that. One of the best things I tried with it was obviously Counter-Strike. I've been playing a bit more of that, and because I can have the highest of rates on that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that was a nice experience. That was fun to play.
360 no scope.
I can't do that. I am terrible at scoping still. There's one of the skills I've lost over the years. It's sniping.
Oh, I could never do it. So
well, let's talk about other Counter-Strike though, because there's a contender. Riot Games' Valorant has been in closed beta for a while, and I finally got my key. So I've been playing some of that with Kippers and Jam, and it's although Jam's not a huge fan of it, she prefers Counter-Strike.
I mean, Counter-Strike has a long pedigree, and up comes a new one.
A new one, and they're taking, like, they're cribbing an awful lot from Counter-Strike, but they're also trying to throw in a little bit of the Overwatch into it. If you, like, from the outside looking in, the first thing you'll notice is it plays like Counter-Strike, but looks quite a bit like Overwatch. You know, that same sort of colourful palette and this cartoony edge to everything, whilst not being hyper stylized down that road. It's got a bit of it about it, right? And that's down, all of the effects of like how smoke bombs are done. For instance, they're like whirling sandstorms instead of like just piles of grey. And you have magical abilities, and there's different, depending on which character you are, you have different abilities, and so it's a bit of a hero shooter as well, but with Counter-Strike style lethality and weaponry. And I think it's pretty good. I think they overcomplicate some of their new mechanics a little bit. Like, I don't like how a character I think he's called Brimstone. I don't like how he puts smoke down, because you use your smoke ability, and then that causes him to do an animation to pull up a little computer on his arm, and then you pick the spots on the map, which is a limited area around where you're currently standing, and which you want the smoke to drop, and then you right click to fire it, and that's the important bit. You have to right click that one rather than left click, because left click is pick target, and then you right click the fire. It's just a bit complicated. So, like, I just want to throw some smoke down. I'd rather actually just throw a freaking grenade rather than having to go through that process.
Bit of a rigmarole, yeah.
And there's a few of the characters have a smoke equivalent, but they don't last nearly as long as his ability. His ability, you can put 3 different smokes down at once, and he doesn't have to throw them, so he's got a bit of an advantage there, and I guess explains the complication a little bit, but I don't know. There's just certain abilities like that here and there where it's just, I'm not going to be using that much because it's just awkward. And there's a few of those, but there's not too many. One of the characters, Cypher, has which is actually quite useful. It's got a spy cam you can put down. So when you're away from it, you can press the spy cam button and actually get visibility through the camera instead. And if you manage to shoot someone with the camera, you then put a tracker on that person so you can see them periodically ping up, which is incredibly handy if you can get that to work. But they can just shoot your camera, so not hidden in any way. It's currently 3 maps in the beta. I thought there was only 1, but it's nice that there's 3, so it's replayable enough at the moment. But there will be more, and it's all free to play, and it will be free to play when it launches. At the moment, I haven't quite butt against where the limits of that are. I mean, you can buy skins if you want, but and I think you have to play the game to unlock different heroes, but I don't know where that stops yet. Or recruits, I think they call them. Recruits? Agents? They might be agents. I think it's pretty cool. Want to try. Runs really well. Scalable graphics. It's not super complicated, like the world design isn't super dense, so it's not like it's it's clearly designed so it can be run on a huge range of machines. It's not pushing many graphical boundaries, but it's a good looking game at least. Looks good enough. Yes. It gets the job done. Let's put it that way. But it's clean enough to work as a Counter-Strike style game.
Right, but it's got a slightly different art style, more towards the
Yeah, definitely on the cartoon fantasy side a little bit. Like, I don't know, there are certain spark effects where they're like they look like a hand drawn anime style spark, I suppose, as opposed like even with a lower frame rate than the game, rather than being a fully archetype thing, which again is a little not Overwatch, I suppose. A lot of Overwatch's effects are still animated properly in like full frame rate, but this will take some like liberties with that here and there. And be like, yeah, that's clearly a cartoon spark. Yeah, it's you know, I think there's work to be done. Like, they try and do the Overwatch audio quip thing at the start of some rounds, but there just aren't as many quips as there are in Overwatch, and maybe they play too often, so you hear a lot of repeats pretty quick. And of course, you know, you're going to hear it more often because you're playing like up to 24 rounds a game, so there's plenty of opportunity to hear those quips. But you know, it's a work in progress. There's a lot going into this from Riot, and it shows because it plays well. I think I feel less frustrated when I die than I do in Counter-Strike. I think at the moment it feels like if I'm getting ended, I feel like it's because the way Counter-Strike spray works, right? Counter-Strike spray is weird to get hold of, whereas here I think the spray is a lot more predictable. Or a lot more less pronounced. So if I'm shooting at someone and I haven't shot them, a lot of the time I can see, yeah, I missed that. That's fine. That guy was better than me. So I'm, you know, and I suck at this. I'm not going to lie about it. I currently suck, but I don't feel so bad about sucking because I can see that I'm losing these fights.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I can see where I've got room to improve, things like that, which is fine. That's all right. If I'm still playing as a group and I'm still, again, play as a group. Like, I don't know if I'd solo this, but I don't really like soloing any multiplayer game these days. But although we've got Splatfest next weekend, so I'll be doing some of that.
Oh yeah, the revival of the Splatfest.
Mayo versus Ketchup is back.
Who won last time?
Ketchup, I think.
I think it was Ketchup, right?
I'm a Mayo man. Well, maybe I just repeat the votes, right? Like, just like, well, Ketchup won last time, so I better vote Ketchup to get them all snails.
Everybody votes.
Everybody votes. Bring back Everybody Votes channel.
Cool.
So there's that. Gears Tactics also came out.
Oh yeah.
So I've sunk a bit of time into that. I don't know. I struggle to. I've been thinking about this obviously since it came out, and I've been struggling a little bit to think how to describe what Gears Tactic is like. I mean, it's good. The actual tactical gameplay works. Its rule set is decent. I think I might have talked about this a little bit last time, right? Did I talk about like how line of sight works and things like that? And
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I won't go too deep on it. And it's like, so I'm a little bit further through now, and there's more mechanics and more enemies opening up. Still not much of a meta. You're still just playing missions as they come to you. Possibly seeing that in like the limits of the types of missions. Finally, like there's some territory control style. There's some like go kill a specific person. That doesn't happen very often, but there's some more story driven levels. There's a boss encounter that I've come across. We are fighting a Brumac at the end of Act 1. That was okay. Yeah, there was a little twist on how they actually gave you some more things to worry about. So I think I've got a handle kind of on how it's playing. It's going all right. I haven't lost a mission yet. I haven't had a guy die. So it's not too bad. But
that doesn't sound very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. I mean, yeah. It's fine. I'm playing it on the normal difficulty. Maybe it'll get more difficult later. Yeah. I've just been dealing with it. Okay. I guess my problem with it is that for some reason, maybe it's because it doesn't have a meta. I'm just not really feeling the draw to it. Like I'm picking it up when I know I've got a lot of time available, and I can just sink into a few rounds. It's like, and in fairness, once I've started playing it, I tend to just go, I'll just play one more mission, and of course a mission lasts at least an hour probably. So it's like, I'll just do one more, another hour gone. So it's got a little bit of that once I've started playing, but when I'm away from it, I'm not particularly drawn back to it, and I think it's a tonal problem because it's really serious.
Right.
Like, I've not got even though I've got Coltrane as a playable character, he's not a story character. There's no levity.
Yeah,
it's
lacking in the levity. And recent Gears games have had a bit of that.
Yeah, they've tried. I think the levity in the early games was better.
Yeah, for sure.
And funnier, and like just the interaction between all of the main characters, was smarter and just better portrayed than it has been in the last two. But there's kind of none of that here. It's all like, we got to get the job done, or we got to go do this thing. And Prescott's an asshole. And
Prescott, goddamn Prescott.
He's about. So it's good, but yeah, I don't know if it's just not grabbing me. So there's that, and the other brand new game that came out this week on Game Pass, so I could play it. The Streets of Rage 4.
Oh, what?
Game of the week, yo.
Is it?
It's good. It's real good. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I think that's it's the strength of the fact that the beat 'em up has evolved enough, so there's definitely I don't know. I feel like I can get better at it. There's tricks to how its combat works. There's patterns. There's enemy patterns to try and figure out, and there's definitely ways of defeating certain enemies better than other enemies. Things like that. There's even though your like move set is fairly limited, like like a classic beat 'em up, there's still ways of using that. There's still ways of how you move around and picking the right moments to dodge versus when you use your attacks and things like that. That's just enough to keep it engaging. And I think that's the best beat 'em ups all have that. And it was something I didn't really necessarily sit with me in the original Streets of Rage games. Like, you can do it, but I never really got a handle on it. Even that one time Zach and I tried to play through the whole thing, like of Streets of Rage 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably.
But I never really felt. I just felt there were certain enemies in it that were just like, oh man, I don't know how I'm supposed to hit this properly. We just sort of bumbled our way through.
Because you only get like one shot and you have to do it immediately.
Yeah. I mean, the bosses in Streets of Rage 4 do have like epic health bars, and it's but the story mode lets you play each stage individually, so it's not like it's a. I think there probably will be an arcade do it in one run mode eventually, but at the moment I'm only working through the story mode, and it treats each stage as an individual run. So you get your 3 lives back, and you get rated on whether you're how many of those you've got left at the end of the stage. But even so, there's been moments where it's been tough. Like, you hit a stage the first time and you're not quite sure how to deal with the new enemies yet, and you just get your ass handed to you. And then pretty much every time I've done that so far, I've had my ass handed to me the first time I've tried a stage, and then the second time I've done pretty good. So it's like, I'm clearly learning. It's not just that the game is hard and it's like unfairly arcade style hard. It's that there are tricks to things, and that's great. That's what a beat 'em up needs. Perfect in that regard. It's really well done. I love its art style. I think the new cartoon.
Yeah, it looks beautiful, doesn't it?
I think the new comic book look really suits it down on the ground. It's great. Cool. There's a lot of detail, especially in backgrounds. Like, pay attention to the backgrounds. There's some great stuff there. There's like nods to the original games there. There's occasional secrets to be found by poking around. Yeah, some really great like bespoke animations for each level. I've only really been playing as Axel so far. I haven't tried the other characters, but he's like your middle of the road style fighter. He's going, middle stats across the whole thing, and plays well. He shouts "rising upper" when you do an uppercut, so you've got to have one move that you shout. And I'm generally very impressed by it. and I'm impressed even more by its soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
it's fantastic.
Awesome.
It's so good. It's got that bit of the retro vibe going on as well. So that same sort of feel like the 90s cheese that Streets of Rage music had. And then kind of just goes with it from there. Like there's it starts you off in that place, but then isn't afraid of going a bit off the rails, doing something a little different, but it all fits, it all works. Like there's nice transitions of the music during a stage. So it doesn't just all hard cut into something else, it will transition into the next bit of music. It's really well done. Like, properly well done. And I think a lot of that stuff I'm going to seek out after I've played the game and just sort of listen to it, like, on its own, because it is great.
How's it compared to the game you can't get anymore, Scott Pilgrim or whatever?
So, I've been thinking about this as well. I think in terms of gameplay, I still prefer Scott Pilgrim. Like, I think Scott Pilgrim is a top draw beat 'em up. And there's just not just in how it plays, but its style is fantastic. The pixel art is fantastic, and it's fast and furious and surprising and fun in all the right ways. And it's got that little bit of progression in terms of things you can buy in the store and you can level up and things like that. So it's I would still put Scott Pilgrim like way up there. And Streets of Rage 4 is more of a classic take of the beat 'em up. But that's no bad thing here, really. There's a place for it, and that place is right now in front of me.
Right here, right now.
I really want to play that and get some multiplayer on in it as well, and like go through that. Like, I think you can do it 2-player. I don't think it's got more than that, but it's really good.
Reviewed.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage.
I'm gonna play more of it. Like
kick-ass.
It's longer than I expected as well. So I'm at stage 6, and stage 6 is the one I had played before. That's not very far in. I think it's like 12-ish stages, maybe. Okay, halfway through the main story then, I guess. But it's not a very long game because it's beat 'em up. But stage 6 is the one I think I played at EGX. So I think I've still got a lot of surprises ahead of me. Enjoying
you interested in that, Zeg?
I don't know. Not as a single player thing, I guess.
Yeah, can you play it online multiplayer?
I think you can. Yeah.
Double Dragon.
Don't hold me there. I'll check that. I can't remember. A lot of the options are grayed out, in fairness, until you actually beat the game properly, like through story mode. So, but yeah, I'll check that. I'll be surprised if it didn't, because I think this is like the same. I don't know if it's the same development house, but it's got that same look and feel as Windjammers 2, and at EGX, the two were presented next to each other, so I think they're pretty closely related.
Interesting. Windjammer 2 is cool,
and that's going all in on the online. Supposedly, so I'd be kind of surprised if this didn't, but honestly I can't remember looking. I just wanted to play the thing. So it's available on Game Pass. If you've got that, you've got no excuse to play it. And I think that'll do me. I think I'm not, Valorant, Overwatch, Counter-Strike. Didn't play much Rocket League. Still Yakuza, of course. The thing I've spent the most time with.
Of course. How's Yakuza?
I'm getting to the point, I think, where last time I said like the combat kind of sucked and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it did at that point in the game, and I stand by that. But I'm getting to the point now, 30 hours in,
right,
where I've got enough of the skills, and I've basically sped up my. I think that's. Sped up my attack. I think that has actually made. As soon as I've done that, I think the game has felt a lot better because I've been able to react better. Like the game has let me react to scenarios more effectively, and I think I've just had less. I've had better boss fights since that bit I got to before, and it feels like the game's flowing a bit better than it was. I wouldn't say the story has got any better though. It's got there's quite a few things in play, and it's trying to come together. Like the mystery is slowly unraveling, but then there's always parts of it where there's just something to the edge that's just hinted at the end of a cutscene or something. You're like, oh, hang on, wait, why is he there? What's that going to lead to? Why are you here? What does that mean? And so there's still intrigue in it, even if I don't think it's quite as. I still don't think it's quite as good as the first game. And there were just moments where it sort of takes a little bit of a tangent from no real reason, it seems. Where it's just why am I doing this now as a main story quest?
Right, yeah.
And I guess you're trying to add some depth to something that you probably could have just done in a side story. It doesn't need to. There's some weird decisions about what is a side story and what is a main story quest. I think there are moments in the main story where they probably should have just been relegated to a side quest because it doesn't really reveal anything or not anything essential. There are moments where you might get a little bit of detail on one of the main characters but it doesn't really push the plot, if you see what I mean. And it's that didn't need to be a main quest.
But yeah, they made it one anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's moments like that. I've been doing a few more of the mini-game stuff. The game has a semi-creepy streak, I suppose, at times.
Semi-creepy.
I haven't done the photo mini-game because I'm a little bit terrified as to what that might actually be. And there are moments where you still have to do a bit of the whole, dating sim-like thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which is still mildly awkward when no one's in the room.
Companion cafes and things.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, you're running the hostess club in the mini game this time.
That's what I mean.
And I actually think that management game, although simple, is actually pretty good.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but it's the bits where what you get extra side stories spin off from that, and so you can take your platinum hostesses out on dates periodically. Okay. And it's okay, but I thought there was a bit of a love story forming elsewhere, but I'm now going out on a date with my employees. Is it a date? Is it not? I'm a bit confused. What tone are you going for? And of course, the answer to that is every tone.
Every tone, all the tones.
It's a tone pone. So there are moments like that where it's quite jarring. It's just I don't know what's going on, but I don't care. I'm going with it. It's still a super bizarre thing, but I can't stop playing it.
Oh,
there's just so much to dig into. I just can't stop.
Perfect game for the times.
Yeah, it's a bit of me.
Yakuza in the past, Yakuza in the present, Yakuza in the future.
Just keep Yakuzing.
Just keep Yakuzing. Keep on Yakuzing.
Problem I now face, right, is when I finish this. I mean, I've got Yakuza 0 I can go back and play, and apparently that's although it has callbacks to the rest of the series, if you've played the games that are further along in the timeline. You can jump into Yakuza 0 and still have a good time. So I can probably do that next in terms of Yakuza games to play.
Are you worrying about running out of Yakuza fix?
Well, kind of, because then well, they're huge games, so it's and I'm probably going to leave it a while after playing this before I go.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah,
but it's okay. After I play 0, then what? Because the only other real option is. In the Yakuza, in the mainline Yakuza series is 6, which is a follow on from 3, 4, and 5, right. Which haven't been Kiwami'd yet.
Yes.
And we don't know if they're going to, because they fairly recently put 3, 4, and 5 out as HD remasters on PS4.
Okay.
And remaster being used a little loosely.
Yeah. Just HDified slightly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's no real. We don't know if they're going to give those the Kiwami treatment. They might not, given their focus on pushing 7 forward. or maybe if they do more with Judgment. But then again, they've had these plates in the air for a while. They've been Kiwamiing, they've been prequeling. Then they made 6, and then or whichever order it was in. Then they made Judgment as a spin-off from all this. It's like there's a lot on at that studio. So who knows? Maybe we will see more. But it's like, I don't know. I feel reluctant to go to 6. I think had I not played the rest of them.
Yeah, of course. But you've got a while before you have to grapple with this issue.
Oh yeah. Give it another year, and I might get around to 0 or something like that. And then there's 7.
Indeed.
What a time to be alive! It's the best time to play video games.
What a time to be alive.
I wish there was more Majima in this one. He's not everywhere.
Hasn't achieved that brand.
No. Yeah, I think he got bored of Majima everywhere. Maybe. What a great system that was. I also played Virtual On for the first time, because that's in this game.
What is Virtua On?
So
it's Virtua, as in Virtua Cop, Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, so it's like it's an early, it's like a early 3D Sega arcade game,
AM2 type thing.
Yeah, I don't know if AM2 made it actually. I've got no idea. But yeah, that sort of thing. And I would say it's probably one of the earliest examples of the Japanese 3D fighter, like one-on-one fighting game, but with robots.
Oh,
well,
okay.
maybe maybe it is the progenitor of like all of the Gundam games, like all that style, or like behind like the Dragon Ball games, other than Fighters. That style of like behind the back, weird 3D fighting game that the Japanese seem to really eat up, but the rest of the world seem to think are kind of shite. And yeah, I'm not convinced by Virtual On, honestly. I don't think it plays well at all. But mainly that might be because of like the translation from the arcade is a bit difficult, right? So the arcade version you played with 2 joysticks in tank control configuration.
Oh, okay.
And in this, they haven't mapped it to the analog sticks in that way. They've made it so you can sort of WAS and D on the left stick and turn left and right with the right stick, but you're sort of limited by the fact that like if you're moving forward, you can't turn as quick if you're running forwards, because you're running forwards, and so the dual joysticks wouldn't have let you do a turn whilst moving forward because you'd have to pull one forward and one back. So it can maybe the translation here like hasn't worked, and they like should have just done dual analogs or something with tank controls. But yeah, I don't really like how that game plays.
Fair.
But no, I'm not sure I've played any 3D fighter that I really like ever.
So if you're going to the arcade in Yakuza,
yeah.
avoid Virtual On.
Well, in fairness, neither of them are much fun to play. Like, Virtual Fighter's there, but playing against the AI kind of sucks because it's cheaty bastard. But I bet playing that with another player, which you can actually do, you can play it 2-player, is probably fine. Get your old school Virtua Fighter fix. Virtua Fighter 2.1. I'm done. End.
More end.
Playing anything?
I restarted God of War, playing a little bit of that.
Excellent.
Mostly forgotten how to play it, but getting into it. But I haven't got to where it opens up into the hub world yet. So, but yeah, that game is pretty good and pretty good looking. Still.
Did you try? Does it have difficulty levels?
It has New Game Plus as well. But I didn't quit that because I'm like, I probably lost all my skills.
Right. Yeah. It's just start from scratch.
It does have difficulty levels. Yeah. I think you can change your dynamic on the fly. So.
Oh, cool.
I think. Yeah. But yeah, that first boulder fight is pretty epic. I've only seen that the one time, so the first time I played, so it's like, oh yeah. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing, of course, during that. Not that you need to, obviously.
No, it's pretty, what's the word, lenient with you during that.
Yeah, just to make it super epic. But still, it's very cool.
I've just gone through half a mountain.
Pretty much. Boy. Yeah, anyway, so that's cool. But I don't think anything else. No.
When you're in the middle of something that you haven't come back to.
Gary's playing. I'm watching Gary play some GTA 5 and Red Dead. He seems to be switching between everything. He hasn't even got midway through GTA. Well, not even close. Third of the way. Already straight onto Red Dead. So, yeah.
Red Dead, as featured on Charlie Brooker's antiviral wipe.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was funny.
It just makes me miss wipe. Is the problem.
I know, that's the problem, and that'll never come back. That's the only reason it could ever come back, isn't it? He couldn't even do it for the end of the year, but he'll do it for this, I suppose. Stuck inside. And there was I think they in the credit squeeze at the end of the antiviral wipe, they were trailing some radio program that Aoife was on from ex-Eurogamer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, some BBC gaming stuff.
Huh. Oh, so she's following that. She'll be working for Xbox soon, that means. Because, that's what happened to Julia Harding. She was
Probably.
Yeah, she was a BBC journalist for gaming and then got picked up by Inside Xbox.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what's the deal with Inside Xbox? Like, what's the deal with platform-specific magazines in this day and age? Is it a magazine still?
Well, Inside Xbox isn't really a magazine. It's not like official Xbox magazine. I think that used to be the one, right?
Right, a future publishing style.
Yeah, OXM. I think that used to be the one. Inside Xbox is just their kind of weird. It's like the Nintendo Treehouse, right? It's their sort of.
Oh, okay. So it's like official.
It's their presenter-driven, way of explaining things. It's like when they've had their crappier shows, they've been Inside Xbox presented, right? So it's EXO, was it the one they've done for the last 2 years, which has always been not quite as nice as you want it to be in terms of an event. That's an Inside Xbox event. Like Major Nelson is Inside Xbox.
Right. I see.
Whereas it's not when they do like a big E3 thing, it's like that's not Inside Xbox. That's
full on.
That's Xbox. That's just
Microsoft corporate coming at you. Right.
Whereas Sony don't really have an equivalent to that.
Community. Yeah. So that's it. Apart from Return of the Obra Dinn, which you should watch on YouTube.
Part 3 will be up next week.
Yeah. Whoop whoop.
I feel like I need to start taking notes.
Yeah, I'm quite concerned that we haven't got any names, but hopefully
yeah. And there's a lot of people that it seems like we should be identifying, and
I think I need to use that focus mode more and look at people's faces
trying
and
to figure out who's who. Yeah, I don't know. There's clearly ways we can be solving things, but they're just not apparent.
Yeah. Well, there's no harm in finding everything and then sitting there trying to work it out.
I feel like what I need is the documents that are in the game, but in a way I can see them in front of me unfilled.
Right.
I don't want the FAQ version where they're all filled in. No, I just want the empty documents in front of me so I can be looking at them while we're playing the game. And being like, oh right, I can direct you. Can we just check this thing out that I've seen?
So now you just want it to be a Zachtronics game though, where he gives you a PDF file, which is the actual data.
Or keep talking and no one explodes, where it's the manual that you have to have other players pass, whatever that is.
Bars. Yeah, so check out our YouTube channel to watch us playing Turn the Obra Dinn and other games, I'm sure. And that'll do it for a Saladcast, I reckon. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Bye.